This presentation will provide an overview of all information needed to understand RFM's compliance policy. RFM must comply with numerous laws and regulations. The laws and regulations can be broadly categorized as external and internal. The external laws and regulations include the Corporations Act of 2001, RFM's Australian Financial Services or AFS license, and ASX listing rules. The internal regulations include RFM's managed schemes key documents, constitutions and compliance plans, and RFM internal policies. RFM's policies and procedures can be found in the Documents section on the dashboard. Australian Securities and Investment Commission, ASIC, is RFM's most important regulator. ASIC regulates Australian companies, financial markets, financial services organisations, and professionals who deal with and advise in investments, superannuation, insurance, deposit taking, and credit. ASIC undertakes regular company checks. All RFM staff have a duty to assist ASIC in their compliance checks. RFM's listed entities are obliged to comply with the requirements of the Australian Transaction Reports and Analysis Centre, the Australian Prudential Regulation Authority, and the Australian Securities Exchange. The financial services regime was legislated by the Financial Services Reform Act of 2001. The law stipulates that any person carrying on a financial services business is required to hold an Australian Financial Services licence. RFM is the responsible entity for two agricultural investment funds, Rural Funds Group, RFF, and 2007 Macgrove Project, MPO7. RFM's Australian Financial Services Licence Authorisation consists of provision of general financial product advice, dealing in a financial product, and operating registered managed investment schemes. Licence conditions include financial and audit requirements, representatives training, external dispute resolution, professional indemnity compensation, and insurance. Any changes to the licence must be made with ASIC's consent. A financial product is a facility through which, or through the acquisition of which, a person makes a financial investment, manages a financial risk, or makes non-cash payments. Examples of financial products are managed investment schemes, shares, general insurance and life insurance, superannuation, cash management trusts, cheque and BPay facilities. Residential properties, health insurance and margin lending are not financial products. Further details are found in the Compliance Staff Induction booklet. RFM funds registered with ASIC, such as 2007 Macgrove Project, are managed investment schemes. RFM, as the responsible entity of a managed investment scheme, has a number of reporting requirements in relation to lodging audited financial statements, auditors' scheme interests and constitutional changes, the issue of product offer documents, and disclosures to investors. Financial product advice is defined in the Corporations Act as a recommendation or statement of opinion that is intended to influence a person making a decision in relation to a financial product, or could reasonably be regarded as being intended to have such influence. There are two types of financial product advice: personal advice and general advice. Personal advice takes into consideration one or more of the person's objectives, financial situation and needs, or a reasonable person might expect the advice to have taken one or more of these factors into account. General advice is financial product advice that is not personal advice. The definition of financial product advice does not include the provision of factual information such as sending a product disclosure statement, a PDS, to a person upon request, and answering queries on insurance premiums, cost of projects, entry, exit fees, etc. Refer to the Staff Compliance Induction booklet for definitions and examples of both personal and general product advice. Only appropriately qualified and authorised RFM representatives can give financial product advice, and only general advice can be provided. Any inquiries of this nature should be referred to the Investor Services team. All RFM staff are able to provide factual information. Each managed investment scheme of which RFM is the responsible entity, RE, has a constitution. This document binds the RE and investors and sets out how the scheme is managed. The compliance plan sets out the minimum compliance standards for meeting legislative requirements. Changes to the scheme's constitution and compliance plans must be approved by the board. Amendments to the constitution may also require unit holders' approval. For the constitutional changes to be effective, a copy of the amendment must be lodged with ASIC. Scheme key documents can be found on the G drive under the Entity folder. Product disclosure statements and the Financial Services Guide are examples of investor-related documentation. Their publication is governed by the Corporations Act. RFM's compliance framework includes the RFM Board, Internal Compliance Committee, Unit Pricing Committee, Audit Committee, and Remuneration Committee. RFM's Compliance and Risk Management Program ensures our obligations are met under the Corporations Act, AFS license, and ASIC requirements for managed investment schemes and companies. The compliance framework and RFM's adherence to it are audited annually by the Compliance Plan Auditor, PricewaterhouseCoopers. The Board of Directors comprises of 4 external directors, Guy Paintner, the Chairman, Michael Carroll, Julian Widdop, and Andrea Lemon. The Board also has 1 Executive Director, David Bryant, the Managing Director. The Company Secretary is Emma Spear. The RFM Board meets monthly and is responsible for setting the direction, strategies, and financial objectives for RFM. This includes monitoring the implementation of strategies and financial objectives, reviewing fund financial accounts and performance, monitoring compliance, ethical standards, and external commitments. The Board must also review all conflicts of interest and approve all related party transactions. Please see compliance if you have any queries in relation to related party transactions. RFM has an internal compliance committee which comprises of several corporate employees. Other employees are included by invitation. The ICC meets quarterly and is responsible for monitoring compliance with RFM's Australian Financial Services AFS license and other relevant legislation and regulations, review of risks across all funds and operations, and promoting an internal culture of compliance. The ICC reports to the RFM Board. The Risk Management Plan covers strategic, operational and project risks, business continuity, and anti-money laundering and counter-terrorism financing, AML-CTF. It is managed by the Internal Compliance Committee, which reports directly to the Board. The appointed AML-CTF Compliance Officer, the Company Secretary, is responsible for compliance with the relevant legislation and reports to AUSTRAC. All staff must familiarise themselves with the compliance policies and other policies as they apply in their business areas. These are located on the dashboard. For further reference, additional detail and definitions, please refer to the RFM Staff Compliance Induction booklet. If you have any questions, please contact the Compliance Department. This concludes your compliance induction.